I was elbow deep in fixing a supply chain mess that had been broken since 2018 when Howard Blackstone walked into my office like he owned the place, which, technically, he did. But after 13 years of keeping Phoenix Industrial Solutions from falling apart, I'd earned the right to think of that corner office as mine. "Ken," he said, not even bothering to knock. "Quick heads up. Ashley starts Monday. She'll need your office." Kenneth Morrison, 49 years old, and I'd heard some ridiculous things in my time, but this took the cake. I looked up from my computer screen where I was manually fixing another ERP system glitch that would have cost us a $200,000 contract if left alone over the weekend. The Hartwell manufacturing order was sitting in digital limbo because our automated processing system couldn't handle their new specifications format. "She'll need what now?" Howard shifted on his feet like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar, but his voice stayed casual. "The office. Ashley's got her MBA now, ready to jump into operations. Figured she'd need a proper workspace." Ashley, his 25-year-old daughter who'd spent the last 4 years learning business theory while I'd been dealing with actual business. The same Ashley who'd asked me last Christmas if we could pivot our manufacturing model to be more sustainable and Instagram-friendly. I'd spent 20 minutes explaining why you can't just switch from steel to bamboo when you're making industrial equipment, but she kept nodding like I was missing some obvious solution. I set down my coffee mug, the one with the chip in the handle that I'd been using for 8 years. The same mug I'd drunk from during countless midnight crisis calls when our overseas suppliers hit shipping delays, or when OSHA showed up for surprise inspections. Where exactly am I supposed to work? Remote setup, very modern. Most companies are going that direction anyway. He was already backing toward the door. "You're always saying you could run this place from a bunker, right?" That was true. I had said that. Back when I was training him on our backup systems after our main server crashed in 2019. I'd spent 72 hours straight rebuilding our entire inventory management system from backup files and manual records. Funny how he remembered that part, but forgot the part where I'd also said it would be a terrible idea to actually do it full time. "Howard, you know that half our vendors only deal with me directly, right? The Hartwell contract specifically requires our operations manager to sign off on all delivery modifications. Details, Ken. Ashley's sharp. She'll pick it up." He was already in the hallway. "Appreciate your flexibility on this." And just like that, he was gone. 13 years of emergency calls at 2 a.m., missed family dinners to handle crisis shipments, weekends spent in this office making sure payroll could clear on Monday morning. All of it worth exactly as much as his daughter's need for a corner office with a view of the parking lot. I sat there for maybe 10 minutes, staring at the wall where my industrial certifications hung. OSHA training from 2015. ISO 9001 certification from 2017. Supply chain management credentials from Arizona State. Things you earn by actually doing the work, not by writing papers about synergistic paradigm shifts or whatever they taught in her MBA program. Here's what Howard didn't understand about operations. It's not just moving boxes around. Our ERP system was held together with custom scripts I'd written over the years. Every time the software company released an update, it broke something, and I'd have to code a workaround. The vendor relationships weren't just contracts on file. They were handshake deals built on years of solving problems together. Take Pete Kowalski at Midwest Metalworks. 3 years ago, his facility flooded during that bad storm season. His production line was down for 2 weeks, which should have killed our biggest contract. But I'd called in favors with 4 other suppliers, personally drove to 2 facilities to inspect alternative materials, and restructured our delivery schedule to keep our customer happy. Pete never forgot that. When other companies tried to poach him with better prices, he stayed loyal. Or Maria Santos at Desert Transport. She'd started as a dispatcher when I first began working with their company. I'd trained her on our specific routing requirements, helped her understand why certain deliveries needed refrigerated trucks versus standard freight. Now she was their operations manager, and when Phoenix Industrial called, we got priority treatment. Not because of our contract terms, but because Maria trusted me to make good decisions. Ashley would walk into this office Monday morning with her color-coded planners and her LinkedIn posts about disrupting traditional manufacturing, and she'd have no idea that she was sitting on a house of cards built from relationships, not software. I started packing that afternoon. Not everything, just the essentials. my certification binders, the black notebook where I kept vendor emergency contacts and system passwords, and a flash drive that contained backup scripts for every critical process in the building, the stuff that made the difference between smooth operations and expensive chaos. The notebook alone was worth more than Ashley's degree. It contained 13 years of troubleshooting notes, vendor contact information that wasn't in our official database, and workarounds for problems that happened maybe once every 2 years but could shut down production when they did occur. I left the rest: the second monitor, the ergonomic keyboard, the small refrigerator where I kept emergency supplies for those all-night crisis sessions. Let Ashley figure out why the coffee maker only worked if you held the handle at exactly the right angle. Monday morning, I watched Ashley's Instagram story from my kitchen table while drinking coffee that actually tasted good for once. She was doing some kind of time-lapse video of herself setting up her new executive space. She'd moved my equipment manuals to make room for a ring light and what looked like a professional camera setup. The caption read, "Day 1 of transforming operations. Ready to bring fresh innovation to manufacturing, #executive life, #manufacturing, and innovation." The ring light was the moment I knew this wasn't temporary. I opened my laptop and registered Morrison Logistics Consulting LLC. Took about 20 minutes online, $150 filing fee. Then I sent a simple email to Barbara Walsh in HR. Transitioning to remote work temporarily while office arrangements are finalized. Available via email as always. I didn't log into our company system that day, or the next day, or the day after that. By Wednesday, the emails started coming in. Nothing urgent at first, just the usual operational questions that normally got answered before people even realized they had them. "Hey Ken, do you know where the Hartwell delivery schedule is? Ashley can't find it in the shared drive." That one made me smile. The Hartwell delivery schedule wasn't in the shared drive because it changed every week based on their production needs. I kept it in a spreadsheet that automatically updated based on email confirmations from their plant manager. Ashley would find a file called Hartwell Schedule Template that hadn't been touched since 2019. Quick question about the customs documentation template. Having trouble with the new European shipping requirements. Another predictable problem. The customs documentation wasn't a simple template you could copy and paste. It required understanding the specific classification codes for each type of equipment we manufactured, knowing which forms needed additional certifications, and maintaining relationships with customs brokers in 3 different countries. I'd spent 2 years learning those requirements after we lost a $400,000 shipment to bureaucratic delays in 2020. Ashley can't find the backup vendor list. System says it's password protected. Of course it was password protected. That list contained contact information for every supplier who'd ever bailed us out of an emergency, complete with notes about their capabilities, pricing structures, and personal relationships. The kind of information that competitors would pay good money for, and that took years to develop. Meanwhile, Ashley was busy making her mark on social media. She posted about bringing agile methodologies to traditional manufacturing and implementing sustainable innovation in legacy processes. One photo showed her in my old chair with a motivational poster behind her that said "Disrupt or be disrupted." I spent that week building Morrison Logistics Consulting, real website, professional email address, LinkedIn company page, started reaching out to contacts I'd built over 13 years in the industry. Not our direct suppliers, that would have been unprofessional while I was technically still employed, but other companies in the manufacturing sector who knew my work. The response was immediate and enthusiastic. Turns out when you spend over a decade solving people's problems at 3 a.m., they remember your name. My first inquiry came Thursday afternoon. Pete Kowalski from Midwest Metalworks. "Ken, heard through the grapevine you're doing consulting now. We've got this new customer demanding just-in-time delivery with zero margin for error. They want someone to audit our entire supply chain and recommend improvements. Interested?" I quoted him my rates: $200 per hour for analysis, $5,000 monthly retainer for ongoing support. He accepted within 30 minutes. Wire transfer hit my new business account Friday morning. That same Friday, our ERP system had its first major hiccup under Ashley's watch. The automated reorder system started purchasing materials we didn't need while canceling orders for parts we were supposed to ship Monday morning. It was exactly the kind of glitch that happened every few months, usually triggered by someone making changes to the default settings without understanding the downstream effects. I used to fix these problems before anyone else even knew they existed. Friday evening system check, catch the error, adjust the parameters, weekend saved. But I wasn't checking the system anymore. Ashley sent a company-wide email. Friday at 4:30 p.m. Temporary system integration challenges being resolved. Innovative solutions implementing over the weekend. Operations will resume normal schedule Monday. The innovative solution was apparently calling me at 6 p.m. on Friday night. Ken, thank God you picked up. Howard's voice was tight, stressed in a way I hadn't heard since the OSHA crisis of 2021. We've got a situation with the computer system. Ashley thinks maybe you could walk her through fixing it, just this once. I'm unavailable, I said. Simple as that. Come on, Ken, it's an emergency. The Hartwell order is supposed to ship Monday, and the system's showing we don't have half the parts we need. You know how important that account is. He was right about Hartwell being important. $1.8 million annual contract, our biggest single customer. They'd been with us for 6 years, ever since I'd personally flown to their facility in Ohio to troubleshoot a delivery problem that their previous supplier couldn't handle. I work on retainer now. 6-month minimum, $15,000 up front. I'll email you the contract terms. I heard him suck in a breath. The silence stretched for maybe 10 seconds. Ken, be reasonable. This is just a temporary glitch. You're still part of the team. My office says otherwise. That was just a space issue. We can work something out. The contract's non-negotiable. Take it or leave it. I hung up and went back to drafting proposals for Morrison Logistics. Had 3 more potential clients lined up, including one of Phoenix Industrial's customers who'd reached out after hearing rumors that I was available for independent projects. Over the weekend, the crisis escalated in ways that were predictable if you understood how our systems actually worked. The Hartwell shipment didn't go out Monday or Tuesday. By Wednesday morning, I had 4 missed calls from Howard and 12 emails from various department heads asking where I was. Ashley had tried to manually override the ERP system over the weekend, which was like trying to perform surgery with a sledgehammer. Instead of fixing the original problem, she'd created 3 new ones. The parts that were actually in inventory got marked as unavailable. Orders for next month's production got accidentally duplicated. And somehow she'd managed to schedule a delivery of raw materials to our closed facility in Tucson instead of our main plant in Phoenix. Maria Santos from Desert Transport called me directly Tuesday afternoon. Ken, what's going on over there? We've got a driver sitting in front of an empty building in Tucson with 40,000 pounds of steel that nobody ordered. My dispatch is getting conflicting instructions from 3 different people at your company. I explained that I was no longer handling operations for Phoenix Industrial, but I could put her in touch with someone. She laughed, but not in a good way. Ken, I've been working with Phoenix for 5 years. You're the only person there who knows our routing systems. This Ashley girl keeps asking if we can optimize our delivery algorithms and integrate with her new digital workflow. I don't even know what that means. She's got an MBA, I said. She's got a headache coming. My driver's charging overtime, the steel's going to sit on the truck until someone figures out where it's supposed to go, and I've got 3 other customers asking why their deliveries are delayed. That conversation cost Phoenix Industrial $3,200 in unexpected transportation fees and storage costs. I know because Maria texted me the invoice total later, along with a message. Your replacement is expensive. By Thursday, the problems were spreading like cracks in concrete. The Hartwell order was officially delayed, triggering penalty clauses in the contract. 2 smaller customers called to complain about late deliveries. The quality control department flagged a batch of products that weren't actually defective. They just didn't match the specifications Ashley had entered into the system. I spent Thursday morning on a video call with my second client, a mid-sized manufacturer in Colorado who needed help streamlining their vendor management. 3 hours of consulting work that paid more than I used to make in a week at Phoenix. That afternoon, Ashley posted a LinkedIn article titled "Embracing Change in Traditional Industries, A Young Leader's Perspective." The article was full of business school buzzwords about leveraging synergies and optimizing human capital. She included a photo of herself in my old office, standing confidently next to a whiteboard covered in colorful diagrams that looked like they came from a motivational seminar. The comments section was interesting. Several people in our industry had seen the post, and their responses were politely skeptical. Impressive office setup. How's the transition from academic study to hands-on operations management going? Those optimization frameworks look great on paper. Any real-world implementation results yet? Are you working with experienced operations staff during this transition? Ashley responded to each comment with more buzzwords and motivational language, but she never answered the actual questions. Industry people notice things like that. Friday brought the call I'd been expecting all week. "Ken, we need to talk." Howard's voice was strained. "Can you come in this afternoon? I work from my home office now. You're welcome to come here. This is serious. We've got Hartwell threatening to cancel their contract. Not just the current order, the entire annual agreement." That got my attention. Hartwell Manufacturing was steady, reliable, profitable business. They weren't the type to make threats lightly. If they were talking about canceling, the situation was worse than I'd thought. What exactly did they say? They want a meeting with our operations manager to discuss systemic reliability concerns. They specifically asked for you by name. When I told them you were transitioning to a remote role, they said remote wasn't going to work for this conversation. I let that sink in. Hartwell didn't care about organizational charts or reporting structures. They cared about results, and they knew who delivered those results. "I told you my rates," I said. "Ken, please, this isn't about money. This is about the company, about people's jobs. It's exactly about money. Your company, your jobs, your problem. I solve problems for clients who pay my consulting rates. At least meet with them, just this once, as a favor. I don't do favors for former employers who gave my office away." He was quiet for a long time. Then, "What would it take?" "A retainer agreement, 6 months, non-refundable, $90,000 up front. That's insane. That's business." He hung up without saying goodbye. That weekend, I got a call from Pete Kowalski. He'd heard through industry connections that Phoenix Industrial was having problems. "Ken, is it true Hartwell's looking for a new supplier? Because if they are, I'd like to throw my hat in the ring. I could use the business, and I've got the capacity." Pete had never worked with Hartwell directly, but he'd been watching them for years, waiting for an opportunity. Hartwell was exactly the kind of steady, high-volume customer that every manufacturer wanted. "I can't speak for Hartwell," I said carefully, "but if you're interested in expanding your customer base, I could help you develop a proposal strategy. Market analysis, competitive positioning, operations audit to show you're ready for that kind of volume. What would something like that cost?" "Would $25,000 for a complete package. Includes 3 months of consulting support during the transition period. Send me the contract." I spent Sunday working on Pete's proposal while monitoring the growing crisis at Phoenix Industrial through industry connections and social media posts. Ashley was still posting motivational content, but the tone was getting more defensive. Her Friday post was about overcoming challenges and staying positive during difficult transitions. The challenge she was facing was reality. Monday morning brought the inevitable collapse. Hartwell Manufacturing sent a formal letter terminating their contract effective immediately, not just canceling the delayed order, ending the entire relationship. The letter was addressed to me personally, with a copy sent to Howard. It cited systemic operational failures and breakdown in reliable service delivery. The letter included a line that probably kept Howard awake that night. "We remain open to future business relationships with Morrison Logistics Consulting, should Mr. Morrison choose to pursue independent vendor partnerships." That same morning, Pete Kowalski called with good news. "Ken, Hartwell wants to meet. Your proposal package impressed them. They're looking for a new primary supplier, and they specifically mentioned your involvement as a deciding factor." Within 48 hours, I'd helped Pete secure a preliminary agreement with Hartwell worth $2.1 million annually. My consulting fee for making that connection was $35,000. More than I used to make in 6 months at Phoenix Industrial. The dominoes kept falling throughout the week. Desert Transport officially ended their preferred vendor status with Phoenix Industrial after the Tucson fiasco. Maria Santos sent me a text. "Working with Pete now. Thanks for the referral. Much easier when people know what they're doing." 2 more smaller clients quietly terminated their contracts. Word travels fast in manufacturing circles, and nobody wants to risk their production schedules on a supplier having operational difficulties. Ashley's social media posts became less frequent and more desperate. Her Thursday LinkedIn article was titled "Learning and Growing Through Challenges," which everyone in the industry understood as code for everything is falling apart. The comments section was notably empty. Friday afternoon, Barbara from HR called me directly. "Ken, I need to ask you something off the record. Are you planning to come back?" "No." "Ever?" "No." She was quiet for a moment. Should I be updating my resume? That's not my decision to make, Barbara. But if you were me, I'd have started updating it last week. That conversation told me everything I needed to know about morale inside Phoenix Industrial. When HR starts asking former employees for career advice, the ship isn't just sinking. It's already underwater. Howard showed up at my house the following Tuesday. I saw him through the kitchen window, sitting in his BMW for a full 5 minutes before getting out. His usual confidence was gone, replaced by the slumped shoulders of a man who'd finally realized he was in over his head. I opened the door before he knocked. Ken. He looked older than I remembered. We need to talk. About what? About you coming back. The office situation, we can work something out. Maybe Ashley could move to the other building, or we could set up a shared arrangement. I stepped aside to let him in, not out of courtesy, but because I wanted to see how far he'd fallen. He sat on the edge of my couch like he was afraid it might collapse under him. The clients are getting nervous. The Hartwell thing was just the beginning. Morrison Industries called this morning asking if we were having solvency issues. Morrison Industries, Ken. They've been with us for 8 years. Sounds rough. Ashley's trying, but... He stopped, probably realizing he couldn't finish that sentence without admitting his daughter was destroying the company. The systems are more complicated than we thought. Some of the vendor relationships are specific. Specific how? Apparently half our suppliers have your personal cell phone number. They're calling you directly instead of going through our purchasing department. I nodded. Made sense. When you solve someone's crisis at 2 a.m. on a Saturday, they tend to remember your number. Howard pulled out a folder. Look, what would it take? To get you back? We could restructure your position, give you more authority, better compensation. I'm not coming back. What do you mean? I mean, I don't work there anymore. You made that clear when you gave my office away. But I do consulting work. I handed him a printed rate sheet. His face went pale as he read it. Ken, this is... He looked up at me. This is more than your entire annual salary. Per month. That's the emergency rate. Standard consulting is lower, but there's a 6-month minimum commitment. We can't afford this. I know. He stared at the rate sheet for a long time. Then he set it down on my coffee table like it was radioactive. You're really not coming back? No. What am I supposed to tell the board? That's not my problem anymore. He left without saying goodbye. I watched him drive away, then went back to my computer where I had emails from 6 potential new clients. 3 weeks later, Phoenix Industrial announced layoffs. 15 people, including some good employees who'd been there longer than Ashley had been alive. The official reason was market restructuring and operational optimization, but everyone in the industry knew better. Ashley disappeared from the company website shortly after. Her LinkedIn profile now listed her as exploring opportunities in sustainable business development. Someone told me she'd moved to Denver to work for a startup that made artisanal dog treats. Morrison Logistics Consulting now has 11 clients and a waiting list. I work from my home office, the one I actually own, and I make more in a month than I used to make in a year. Last week, Pete Kowalski sent me a bottle of bourbon with a note. Thanks for the Hartwell connection. You're the real deal. The real deal. After 13 years of being taken for granted, it's nice to be recognized for what I actually bring to the table. I never officially quit Phoenix Industrial. I just stopped showing up after they gave my office away. Turns out, when you're the person holding everything together, your absence speaks louder than any resignation letter ever could. Sometimes the best revenge isn't dramatic. Sometimes it's just letting people discover what they actually lost when they thought they could replace experience with a ring light and an MBA.